Well, so the news has just come in that Whitey Bulger, the famous South Boston gangster, has been murdered in prison. He was 89 years old. I'm quite surprised he'd actually lived this long. There's two reasons for this. The reason why Bulger... Now, why is this on Open Source Occult TV? Well, the whole gangster culture is kind of occult anyway, particularly in the United States. You have La Costa Nostra, the Mafia and so on, but even the Irish American ones, there's a heavy occultic influence. Now, Bulger was involved in the South Boston gangs, but they worked all over the United States. Now, before he was arrested, I think it was in 2000, whenever it was, about 10 years ago, he was the second most wanted man on the FBI list of wanted criminals. He was actually behind Osama bin Laden. Now, why would an elderly guy who basically only killed other criminals and who was kind of harmless at that point, he was kind of, his world was over, why was he so wanted? Well, a lot of people don't know. Whitey Bulger was part of the MK Ultra program. When he was younger, he was actually just a petty criminal. And then he went into the US Air Force. Now, he did have some disciplinary problems and was court-martialed for absenteeism, for going AWOL while he was in the US Air Force. But when he got out with honourable discharge. Now, what's interesting, then he started going back to his life of petty crime and so on. And that's when it gets interesting. He was arrested and went to Atlanta Penitentiary. And while he was there, he was recruited forcibly by the CIA for the MK Ultra program. Now, the MK Ultra program, you hear a lot of nonsense about it, that it's basically, you know, there's a lot of these like truth gurus tell you it's about the music industry. There's actually no proof there's any connection between MK Ultra and the music industry. But what there's plenty of proof is between the MK Ultra and killbots, between the MK Ultra and cults and starting cults and cult members. A lot of these killbots and mindless Manchurians are trained through cults. And how they discovered this was in prisons, using both prisoners and psychiatric patients. Mostly horrible stories. MK Ultra was a completely horrible thing. It picked on people who had no choice. So it was very much similar to what was going on in the gulags in Russia at the time. Whitey Bulger was Whitey Bulger because of MK Ultra. If you don't believe me, look it up. It's not that hidden. He maintained all his life that MK Ultra had deeply affected him, and he didn't start murdering until MK Ultra. And the question remains is, even though he had turned and become a snitch, they still wanted him down. The reason why they wanted him down was because he knew things about MK Ultra, and some of the murders he had done were definitely hits on behalf of the CIA and the government. So Whitey Bulger is far more than some, you know, mobster from South Boston. There's a bigger story there, and it's directly related to MK Ultra.